Before there was anything, before atoms, before light, before the first vibration of time, there was a moment that defies every tool we use to understand reality. A moment where even the word moment collapses, because time itself had not begun. Scientists, philosophers, and theologians have tried for thousands of years to describe that boundary. Some call it the beginning. Some refuse to even give it a name. But every path, no matter how far it goes, eventually reaches a wall where human concepts fail. Imagine standing in a dark room, not the usual darkness we know, the kind where, if your eyes adjust, you can still make out the shape of your hand. No. Imagine a darkness where nothing exists to reflect or absorb light. Imagine a darkness where space doesn't even exist, so darkness itself has nowhere to sit. That is the kind of mystery we approach when we talk about the origin of the universe. In our daily lives, everything begins from something. You bake bread from flour, you build a house from bricks, you write a book from words and paper. Even your thoughts come from memories and experiences stored inside a physical brain. Nothing simply appears without raw material. Because of this, our minds are wired to believe that everything must come from something else. It's a habit of thinking formed by living inside a universe governed by cause and effect. But what if we step outside that habit? What if we try to imagine the moment before something existed? It is here that we encounter one of the most difficult and most important ideas in the entire history of knowledge: creation out of nothing. Creatio ex nihilo. This idea doesn't just ask where the universe came from, it challenges the very structure of human thought. Let's use a simple example. If you lose your phone, you say, "I have nothing in my pocket." But that's not true. Your pocket still has space inside it. It has air. It has the fabric that forms it. Even the word pocket itself assumes the existence of a container. So your nothing is still a version of something. Our language is built with this limitation. Now try to imagine nothing in a different way. Imagine no space, no air, no container, no location, no emptiness, no vacuum, not even the potential for something. A total absence. What is that? The human mind freezes at this point because we have never experienced such a state. We can imagine emptiness. We can imagine a blank room. We can imagine darkness. But we cannot imagine the absence of existence itself. And yet, this is precisely where the conversation about the origin of the cosmos begins. Some thinkers throughout history tried to avoid this problem by suggesting a simpler idea: that the universe didn't come from nothing, but from pre-existing material. This idea is called creatio ex materia, creation from something. It feels more natural because it fits the way we see reality around us. You make clay pots from clay, not from thin air. You build inventions from metal, not from imagination. Even some classical Muslim thinkers lean toward this idea, inspired by Greek philosophy. They argued that matter might have existed forever, and the act of creation was really the act of shaping this eternal matter into the world we know. On the surface, this sounds logical and clean. But look deeper, and the problem becomes even bigger. Because if the universe came from pre-existing matter, we must ask, where did that matter come from? Who or what made that? If matter was eternal, then why does it behave the way it does? Why does it follow laws? Why does it change? You can push this question back as far as you want, but eventually you hit a wall. The chain cannot go back endlessly without becoming meaningless. Imagine a line of dominoes stretching infinitely backward. You can understand the fall of each domino, each one knocks the next. But if there is no first domino, the entire sequence has no foundation. It is an infinite explanation with no grounding. Even atheistic cosmologists today struggle with this problem. If the universe came from a quantum field, where did the quantum field come from? If it emerged from a multiverse, who created the multiverse? If everything relies on something else, then nothing truly has independent existence. That is the philosophical trap of creatio ex materia. Creatio ex nihilo, on the other hand, isn't just rewriting the rules, it is removing the entire stage on which the rules were written. It claims that the cosmos did not begin with something. It began with absolute nothingness, and that existence itself was brought into being by a will, a command, a power beyond the cosmos. The idea is not only theological, it is close to what modern physics discovered. When the Big Bang theory came along, many scientists resisted it. Not because it was scientifically weak, but because it sounded too much like creation. The universe had a beginning. Space and time had a starting line. And the laws of physics break down when we approach that boundary. The equations reach what physicists call a singularity. At that point, mathematics stops being able to describe reality. Something happened, but science cannot explain what or why. The tools of physics simply do not work before the universe existed. This is not a scientific mistake. This is the limit of the method itself. A fish living at the bottom of the ocean cannot imagine deserts. It cannot imagine dry land because its entire world is water. Likewise, our minds are built inside time, space, matter, and energy. We cannot imagine what lies outside them. Creatio ex nihilo forces us to face the limits of human imagination. And this is exactly why the concept is so powerful. It confronts us with a reality that cannot be reduced to natural processes. It tells us that existence is not an accident, not a chain stretching backwards forever, and not a rearrangement of eternal matter. It begins with a decisive act that is not part of the universe, not a product of time, and not a result of natural laws. There is another profound implication. If the universe began from nothing, then nothingness is not the opposite of God. Nothingness is not a rival state. Nothingness is simply the absence of created things. And this means something deeper. There is no such thing as pure nothingness existing independently, because for nothing to exist, it has to be a category. To be a category, it must sit within a framework of existence. Once again, our language betrays us. We say nothing, but what we really mean is no created thing. Think about this in simple terms. If you walk into an empty room and say, "There is nothing here," you still have the room. You still have air. You still have gravity. You still have space. So your nothing is actually full of things. The universe's beginning, however, is not like an empty room. It is the absence of room, space, emptiness, potential, everything. And yet, from this absolute absence, existence begins. This is the heart of the idea. And this is the point where the Qur'anic concept of creation enters the discussion. Because while some thinkers argued for pre-existing matter, while others tried to naturalize creation through cosmic evolution, the foundational claim that the universe originated by a divine act from nothing remains one of the strongest metaphysical explanations ever proposed. The Qur'an paints the universe with a vocabulary that is both simple and remarkably sophisticated. Before we attempt to trace the Qur'an's account of how the cosmos began, we first need to understand the language it uses when it describes reality itself. When the Qur'an speaks about everything that exists, it most often uses the expression the heavens and the earth, al-samawat wa al-ard. This pair appears across the Qur'anic discourse like an axis around which all created things are organized. It functions as a technical term, a complete bracket that includes the entire physical order. Whenever the Qur'an uses this formula, it means all of creation, the celestial realms above, the terrestrial world below, and the space that stretches between. Sometimes this formula expands into the heavens and the earth and whatever lies between them, an even more explicit way of saying that nothing is left outside this description. Whether something is near or distant, visible or hidden, terrestrial or cosmic, it belongs within this framework. Classical Quranic commentators, from Al-Tabari to Al-Razi, consistently interpreted this phrase as referring to the totality of the created cosmos. But inside this broad pair lie subtler layers. The Quran frequently uses al-sama, the sky, in the singular, and al-samawat, the heavens, in the plural. The singular can refer to the sky we see daily, clouds drifting, birds flying, the canopy of stars at night. But the plural opens up a larger arena. Al-samawat indicates levels, tiers, or layers, a structured, multi-level cosmic architecture. This is not speculation. Every major scholar of Quranic Arabic agrees that the plural form necessarily implies multiplicity. Fakhr al-Din al-Razi, Ibn Kathir, al-Qurtubi, and others all point to the fact that heavens refers to a multi-layered cosmic domain. Exactly how these layers relate to modern cosmology is not the focus here, but what matters is the Quran's insistence that the universe is not a flat expanse. It is a system of many dimensions. When the Quran describes these heavens, it does so with imagery that suggests order, pathways, stars, constellations, motion, boundaries, and protection. These are the concrete references to the visible and invisible layers of the cosmos. Opposite the heavens stands al-ard, the earth. The Quran's use of earth is similarly rich. Sometimes it means the planet under our feet. Other times it means the entire terrestrial realm. Mountains, oceans, valleys, vegetation, living creatures, and all the processes that sustain life. When paired with the heavens, it becomes the second half of the cosmic equation. One side represents the celestial order, the other represents the home of life, growth, and human experience. In classical commentary, Earth is often understood as the foundational level of creation, a base upon which life unfolds and against which the heavens rise in layers above. Beyond the heavens and the earth, the Quran uses another term that broadens the picture, al-alamin, the worlds. This does not simply mean planets or galaxies, nor does it refer only to human society. Scholars explain that worlds means communities of existence, realms, or categories of creation. The world of humans is one. The world of jinn is another. The worlds of animals, plants, angels, all fall under this broad term. Al-Raghib al-Asfahani describes al-Alamin as every distinct group of created beings that shares a common nature. In other words, creation is not a single block of reality. It is a constellation of interconnected realms. Exactly this notion appears in M theory, which suggests that 11 dimensions are woven together with our own, forming the delicate balance that allows the universe to exist. If Al-Alamin emphasizes the diversity of creation, Al-Khalq emphasizes its unity. This word refers to all that has been created, the entirety of the cosmos as the product of a single act of divine origination. It is the Quran's way of talking about the universe as one complete system, regardless of how many layers or kingdoms it contains. In Quranic discourse, Khalq is not just a noun. It is a reminder that everything owes its existence to an act of bringing forth. Creation is not eternal, not self-sustaining, and not independent. It is dependent, contingent, and purposeful. Imagine standing on a busy street at night. You see the ground level, houses, trees, people walking, cars passing. Above that, airplanes glide through a higher layer, their lights tracing lines across the sky. Higher still, satellites move in perfectly timed orbits, invisible to the naked eye, but essential to the modern world. Each layer has its own rules, inhabitants, and purpose, yet they all operate within one integrated system. The Quranic vocabulary does something similar. It invites you to see the world not as a flat landscape, but as a multi-level structure. The earth below, the visible sky above, and higher realms beyond that, all tied together as a single creation. When exploring how the Quran describes the emergence of the cosmos, a careful and methodical approach is necessary. Quranic references highlight foundational principles rather than technical explanations. For example, the verse, "He is the first and the last," implies two fundamental truths. The universe has a definite beginning, and it will eventually come to an end. When all was nothingness, God was the first, and when all things fade, God will be the last. The Quran repeatedly asserts that the cosmos is a created entity and attributes this act of creation uniquely and exclusively to Allah. Verses such as, "All praise belongs to Allah who created the heavens and the earth, and made darkness and light. Yet those who disbelieve equate others with their Lord," explicitly points to the heavens, the earth, and all that lies within them as works of divine creation. Within Islamic thought, all existence traces its origin back to Allah, the Alpha and the ultimate source of everything. A core belief is that Allah alone is uncreated. He is the uncaused cause from whom all creation proceeds. One of the defining features of the Quranic conception of God is precisely this creative, origination-giving, and innovative power. All forms of power, including creative power, are ultimately grounded in and unified by the doctrine of Tawheed, Allah's absolute oneness. At the most fundamental level, everything that exists can be divided into two categories, the creator and the creation. This seems simple, almost obvious, but it carries profound implications for understanding the universe and its origin. In the Quranic worldview, Allah is repeatedly emphasized as the ultimate source of all existence. This means that nothing exists independently or by necessity. Everything depends on Him for its origination. But what does it really mean for Allah to be the ultimate source of everything? It does not imply that creation is a part of Him, as in pantheism, nor that the universe emanates from Him as an automatic overflow. Allah's origination is distinct. He brings everything into existence by His will, while remaining entirely separate and uncaused Himself. He is the Alpha, the uncreated creator, and everything else exists only because He has willed it so. The Quran also implicitly suggests that the concept of creation applies not only to the physical world we inhabit, but also to all other realities and beings that might exist in different dimensions or realms. Our universe, the stars, planets, matter, energy, space, and time, forms a cosmic theater, a structure or setting in which life, matter, and physical phenomena occur. Similarly, other entities such as angels, jinn, and other forms of existence unknown to humans have their own respective realities, each with its own structure, laws, and principles. Even the eschatological realities, paradise and hell, are understood in the Quran as distinct realms or cosmic structures in which beings exist and experience outcomes in accordance with divine justice. In this sense, creation is not simply about the material universe. It includes all realms, planes, and structures in which existence unfolds. Every created reality is a cosmos in itself, containing beings, entities, phenomena, and events. From a theological perspective, the process by which these cosmic realms are brought into existence is called cosmogeny. This is the metaphysical stage that bridges the creator and the creation, the point at which the divine will produces a structured reality. Once these realities are brought into being, they do not remain static. They evolve and mature, developing their intended characteristics and fulfilling the purposes for which they were created. The study of this evolutionary process of the cosmos, how it grows, stabilizes, and functions, is what is referred to as cosmogeny. Regarding the origin of the universe, the doctrine of creatio ex nihilo, creation out of nothing, appears most consistent with the Qur'anic worldview. Numerous verses support this understanding. For analytical clarity, these verses can be divided into two categories: verses that present creatio ex nihilo as a general principle governing Allah's creative act, and verses that directly apply creatio ex nihilo to the origination of the cosmos itself. The first category includes verses such as, Mary said, "My Lord, how will I have a child when no man has touched me?" He said, "Such is Allah. He creates what He wills. When He decrees a matter, He only says to it, 'Be,' and it is." Whenever we intend to do something, we do no more than say to it, "Be," and it comes to be. He is the one who gives life and causes death, and when He decrees a matter, He only says to it, "Be," and it is. These passages emphasize Allah's will and command as the ultimate cause of all existence. The second category verses are central to constructing a Qur'anic cosmology. These verses offer the strongest textual basis for affirming the creation of the cosmos from nothing. 3 verses in particular highlight this. Originator of the heavens and the earth. When He decrees a matter, He only says to it, "Be," and it is. It is He who created the heavens and the earth in truth, and on the day He says, "Be," and it is. His word is the truth, and His is the dominion on the day when the trumpet will be blown. He is knower of the unseen and the seen, the exalted, the merciful. Is it that the one who has created the heavens and the earth has no power to create ones like them? Why not? He is the supreme creator, the all-knowing. All it takes, when He wills something to be, is simply to say to it, "Be," and it is. The Quran calls Him the Originator. To be the originator means to make something exist without relying on any prior model or material, to bring an entire cosmic structure into being by command. These verses assert 2 linked claims. First, the cosmos as a whole, the heavens and the earth, is the work of a single originator. Second, the manner of origination is immediate and absolute. God's decree is sufficient to bring the thing into existence. Al-Qurtubi and Ibn Arabi read these verses as showing that Allah's knowledge and decree precede created existence. Ibn Arabi, as noted by modern scholars like Sayyid Hossein Nasr, expanded this by insisting that the metaphysical stage prior to creation is neither equivalent to created existence nor reducible to absolute nothing. In other words, God's knowledge and decree already contain the plan for what will be, yet that pre-existential stage is not identical with the created thing once it comes into being. This is a subtle metaphysical point. Origination involves a threshold where divine intention becomes effect, but that threshold is not itself a created entity. This is where the Qur'anic idea of creatio ex nihilo fits. The cosmos begins by God's command alone, without any pre-existing material. To see the practical implication of the Qur'anic language, compare 2 everyday images. A craftsperson who builds a table from wood shapes pre-existing material into a new object. An originator who, by a single authoritative command, brings a fully formed table into being without first needing wood. The Quranic term originator stresses the second type of action at the level of the cosmos. The universe as a whole is not merely reshaped from something prior that is identical in kind to it. Its first coming is a decisive originating act by God's command. But that origination, Bringing the cosmos into being is only the first metaphysical stage. Once the cosmos has been established, the Qur'an uses other images and descriptions to show how the newly created reality takes on form, structure, and variety. Verses such as, "Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing, then will they not believe?" And, "Then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, 'Come into being, willingly or by compulsion.' They said, 'We have come willingly.'" Point to stages and materials involved once the cosmos exists. These passages are often read as describing how the primordial cosmic state becomes structured matter, gases, water, planets, and eventually life. This is where the Quranic idea of creatio ex materia applies. Once the primordial matter exists, creation proceeds through materials and processes that God has established. In plain language, God's command brings the frame into existence. Within that frame, God deploys primordial substances and processes so that particular creations, stars, planets, living beings, emerge according to their ordained natures. This sets up an important conceptual distinction: cosmogeny versus cosmogony. Cosmogeny is the metaphysical turning point, the actual origination of a cosmic reality from the divine will. Cosmogony, by contrast, studies the internal unfolding of that reality once it exists, how gases condense, how orbits stabilize, how minerals and life forms emerge. This is why the Qur'an can say that humanity is created from clay, jinn are created from smokeless fire, all life is created from water, the heavens began as smoke. And the universe once existed as a united entity before being separated. All of these are descriptions of cosmogony, the internal unfolding of a universe that has already been brought into existence by God's command. In the Quranic account, these are complementary moments. The first is enacted by the divine fiat. The second proceeds through created processes and materials. Put plainly, the cosmos is first established by the originator's command, and then it becomes populated and structured through the materials and processes God assigns. The primordial matter, whose ultimate existence the Qur'an traces back to divine origination, becomes the raw material for the progressive, orderly creation of stars, planets, life, and other realms. Many people reject the idea of creatio ex nihilo, creation from nothing, because they misunderstand what the Qur'an means by nothing and what it teaches about the divine reality. The Qur'an's message is not that the universe came out of absolute nothingness. Instead, it teaches something deeper. Before anything existed, only Allah existed, and He is the ultimate reality. To understand creatio ex nihilo properly, one must first understand the nature of this ultimate reality. In the Qur'an, nihilo, the nothing in creation from nothing, does not mean total emptiness or absolute non-existence. Rather, it means a state with no physical form or material substance. It is simply the absence of created things. The Qur'an shows that before the universe, there was Allah, eternal, independent, and beyond all categories we know. He is not a thing like created things, nor is He nothing. He is a reality that cannot be compared to anything in creation and cannot be reduced to a physical or non-physical label. When the Qur'an says Allah is the first, it means nothing existed before Him. Creation does not come from true nothingness. It comes from God's will, power, and command. Allah alone has no origin, while everything else originates from Him. This includes the universe and its earliest forms. After Allah brings things into existence, after the first moment of origination, the process of shaping and forming the universe continues. This distinction is reflected in His names: Al-Badi, the one who brings something into existence without any previous example; Al-Bari, the one who initiates creation in perfect order; Al-Khaliq, the one who creates and develops things step by step; These names show both the moment of origination and the later stages of creation. Based on this understanding, several core principles of Qur'anic cosmogeny become clear. God, the uncreated being, originates all creation through his knowledge, will, and command. Everything that exists traces its beginning to this divine act. Qur'anic cosmogony is qualitative and metaphysical, trans-temporal, anchored in creatio ex nihilo. Qur'anic cosmogony, by contrast, deals with the quantitative, observable phases of creation once the universe already exists. Qur'anic cosmogony negates both extremes. It denies absolute nothingness as the state preceding creation, and it denies the eternal existence of any being besides God. Allah's eternal knowledge of future beings neither grants those beings pre-existence nor places them in a state of absolute nothingness. His knowledge is not a material precursor, it is a divine, non-temporal reality. Instead of absolute nothingness, the Qur'an presents the divine realm, the ultimate reality, Allah himself. This metaphysical reality is the ground upon which the entire concept of creatio ex nihilo rests.